everyone hear me? Yes? It's a pleasure to be here with you. My intention today is to be able to share a different perspective, to be able to talk together, not about how can we manage our times, but how can we think together different ways of connecting with time. I am from Belém do Pará, a city that most probably you heard about because of COP, the event that we're going to have at the end of this year. So I was born and raised in the Amazon rainforest, and there we have a completely different perspective on how a lot of different topics related to innovation are perceived. So my intention here today is not to come and share content, but to connect with you, to be able to understand the perspectives that are being shared here along the day, but also to be able to show other ways to think, coming all the way from this other place. And I bridge these different perspectives coming from the Amazon rainforest, working in Amsterdam, where today I have the Temporality Lab, where I work, but I also teach in different master's programs, some of them today in Barcelona. So I am in this bridge in between these different places. My experience here in Germany, work-wise, started 3 years ago in a project that I will mention as well, called the Time Machine Organization. It is a consortium of different organizations that are looking at how to build a big data of information about our past in order to inform better ways to deal with our future. It is a project that is mostly organized by different organizations, but also universities, museums, galleries, libraries, that are connecting our cultural perspective, our cultural history, to understand how can we build innovation driven into culture. So why time is so important in the center of this conversation? When we are talking about innovation, we hear a lot about future, speed, growth, scale, elements that are talking about productivity, efficiency, things that makes us enter in a hurry in this think and this ideas of urgency. But it is important for us to think that even after the whole day here, sometimes time can just disappear. We can think that we scrolled a lot of things, we heard a lot of different things, and we can think together what stayed with me, what I lived here today, what is important for me to understand that had meaning. And today we live in a society that we consume a lot of information, but it's really hard for us to stay present in what is happening. And in this context, I've been studying for 13 years our relationship with time. So I study how we perceive, how we experience, and how we express these different ways to relate to time. Precisely because I come from a region that has a completely different way of care about time and to deal with change in different ways. So usually when we think about innovation, we think about future, but I want to expand this idea to the concept of time, because it is important to have other takes on this innovation that usually looks forward, trying to erase everything that happened until here. Usually we see this linear perspective of futures that just ignore the past and present and say, I'm going to be the first one doing that, let's do fast, let's go and break the things that are there. But usually, someone tried to do that before. And in this story, we also saw a lot of people getting problems as well, and things that we understand that should have been done in a different way. What if we learn from the cycles that happened in the past? How can we drive change in different ways? As I mentioned, I founded the Temporality Lab, and inside of it, I invite people to learn something that to solve a problem, we need to name it. I teach temporal literacy. How can we read, write, reflect, live our experience on time in a different way? How can we learn from scientific perspectives, from cultural perspectives, from different philosophical perspectives? what is this concept of future that we are living until now. And for me, this is an important take to all of us, because just like we were talking here now about innovation, usually we try to understand everything that is happening around us. So we want to have an overview, to have this big picture of everything that is happening. But it's really common to all of us know what is happening around the society in a very shallow way, in a very superficial way, looking only this picture of what is happening in the present. It is important for us to take this picture and understand inside of a movie that had a lot of scenes before and other things happened, and maybe watch this movie through the lenses of other directors as well, from other countries, from other cultures, to have this idea of a long view, to understand what is this perennial way of understanding change, and who are the change makers that are looking to the same context of this picture that we started to think. When we go long and back enough, we also start to connect with the deep view. We start to understand that there are a lot that we don't know, And when we connect with this idea of this mystery, we also perceive how many of the problems that we had, they were not the real problems. We had other things to focus and other things to solve. There is a Nigerian philosopher and post-activist called Bayo Akomolafe that says that in our times, we live in such an urgency that precisely because of this urgency, we need to learn to slow down. Can sound like a paradox in an urgent time that everyone is running to stop and to look back and to reflect and to have this time. But actually, I don't know if you heard already about Otto Scharmer, that is the founder of the EU theory, a method that invites us to solve problems in different ways. He always invites us to think that the internal quality of the person that is trying to do an intervention somewhere is going to affect directly the intervention that is done. So if someone has this mindset and this perception that is looking only to speed, these will affect everyone around, with the cost of a lot of people having anxiety, stress, burnout. And it is important for us to consider everything that was not said, all these invisible layers, all these people that were not heard in these different perspectives. So on that, we can think of time in an individual way, in a that is more personal. We can think in time in a collective way, how the society is organized, and also in the planetary way, how our nature and our context of the planet is looking to that. I want to start with the personal perspective. Each of us are here today experiencing this day in a completely different way. Some of us left our houses or traveled until here, and maybe we're really oriented right now by something that happened in our week. Some of us didn't have a very good week, or you had a lot of pressure to do what you needed to do. So you are here, but your mind is affected and influenced by these lenses of your past. Some of us can be also here trying to absorb everything, not looking a lot to how you will apply this in the future or the week that you came. But then this also makes you quite go with the wave and not necessarily understand how can you be an agent of the changes that are happening right here, right now inside of this room. And there are people that are here more oriented towards future, thinking, okay, but how I'm going to apply this and what I'm going to do with that he's saying, like tomorrow in my company or in my university or in my community. It is important for us to think that when we are talking about this perspective and this relation that we have as an individual, it is a lot about attention, where our attention is going. And sometimes we are here, but our attention is in the past, or maybe in another time, another perspective that doesn't fit in these three words, past, present, and future. So how can we expand this idea to more concepts? I'm going to go there, but actually when we think about organizational time, we limit that to lines and deadlines and ideas of speed, productivity, and scale that ignores a lot of this individual relationship with time. So usually we try to take and keep all of this like in our personal lives, because we know that inside of the professional, organizational structure, we need to follow everything that needs to happen inside of this project management, for example. But the world around us doesn't work like that in a line, or in this idea of this efficiency going higher and higher. So I want to invite you to connect with other temporalities, to think that just like we need to live inside of this calendar and of the months, and every Monday we need to do what we need to do at work, we also can find space and time in our lives to connect with the cycles of the moon, to understand that every day and every week has a completely different meaning when we observe all these different cycles that are happening around us. Just like we have the cycles of the moon, the people around us, they are also in different moments of their cycles, if we pay attention closely to the people that are in our teams, in our families, in our work. From these different perspectives, we can think that this idea to run everything by the clock is quite broken. We have a lot of different technologies and perspectives that we discuss as innovation, but we forget the importance of culture. To add my bit on how these tools and technologies that we think today as innovation can gain contributions from culture, I invite you to connect and to search more about the perspective of a Chinese professor that today he's teaching in Berlin and in Rotterdam, called Yuk Hui. And he talks about the diverse, what we gain with diverse perspectives of people from different cosmovisions working in our teams. And what is a cosmovision? It's just like a worldview, but it's usually the word that we use in indigenous communities, in Afro-centered and African diasporic communities in Brazil, in Latin America, in the global south. And usually, when we see the difference of what is happening in, for example, the innovation in the US, or this context that we were just discussing here, about the pace of things and what we are focusing in China, for example, where Yuk Hui is coming from, we see culture as a different element. How people relate to each other, how they relate to these cycles. We had a context that with the growth of expectations around AI, the US started to invest in different chips, in different data centers, in stock markets, and look into how we should invest in different things. And then we look into, at the same time, while all of this buzz were happening on one side, how in China we had researchers that said, oh, how would it be to do that for more people in public and with the data open? And the same thing that we were creating a buzz in one side around the market, another culture took not only speed, but looked from a completely different angle how to solve that problem. Just like the perspective that Yuk Hui brings for us of how culture can change our take on innovation, I invite you as well to think that this idea that if we go faster, that we accelerate, we are going to find progress, as a myth. Because today, we have a lot of technological acceleration happening around, but this acceleration is also changing this internal state of where we are present in different moments. So this concept comes from the German sociologist Hartmut Rosa. He teaches at the University of Vienna here in Germany, where I had the opportunity to work in the project of the time machine that I mentioned to you. And he brings this important concept that we are looking only to the dimension of technology accelerating, but we forgot the importance of understanding how this technology is accelerating the social change. And when we see everything around us going really fast, we tend to accelerate the pace of our individual life. And this is the moment that we start to deal with all of this context of this internal pressure and trying to fit in what is happening around. And then we see the cycles of burnout and anxiety happening in society. How can we be able to question this idea that progress is only connected to acceleration, and we start to connect with these ideas that we can synchronize with different cycles. How can we expand this idea that innovation need to go as fast as we can because we don't know things already? No, we know a lot. We know also that these structures of AI, they are not only in the cloud, in an individual, in a virtual space, but this cloud, it is actually a very material infrastructure that is around us, that consumes a lot of energy, that demands a lot of water from places that doesn't have these resources available, putting these data centers in places that sometimes people cannot afford to live anymore because of the gentrification of the costs where we are building these spaces. So it is important to look to the social and cultural aspects of innovation. Because yes, this is affecting our relationship with time and with life around us. My invitation to you is to think together of how can we live this hyper-present. How can we breathe, understanding that we all are living in this perspective, me included, all of the institutions around us, we are all inside of the same system, but we have different perspectives around that we can learn from. And usually, if instead of give up, we learn to rest, and while resting, we also relearn to dream. While dreaming, we are able to dream with other futures, other possibilities that when we are in this very fast pace and overcrowded present, it's really hard to imagine other scenarios. We live today in this idea that I call a temporal displacement. We just change the layer that is in front of us of technology, but doesn't matter if the technology is from the future or from the past, we are reproducing the same way of consuming things, the same architecture of structure, hierarchical structure of families, of companies. How can we question this layer, this social, cultural, technical layer, and not only the technological? Because this is affecting our understanding of future. This is affecting our understanding of time. My invitation is for us to decolonize time, to look to these other cultures that had other understandings of cycles and learn from them, learning from ways of relating to nature, ways that can look for 4,000 years ago and see how different empires existed already, and they just fall down. And just like this change happened already, we're gonna keep experiencing change happening around us. Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. This is something that Victor Hugo, the philosopher, said, and when we connect to the history before us, we also understand that we are not stuck in the models that the present is showing to us. In fact, it's beautiful to learn from perspectives that gives us other words, like the perspective of the Bantu people in Africa, that we have a huge heritage there in Brazil. They don't think about time connected to past, present, and future. They look to the 4 cycles of the sun. The moments that the sun is rising in the ocean and bringing novelty, the moment that the sun is there on top at the noon, that we can learn about maturity and all this energy, but it's also hard to see things when we are in this moment. The moments of the sunset and the things that we need to prepare to the cycle change. And the moment of the midnight that we cannot see the sun, but something is happening and running in the invisible. And just like the cycle of one day, we have this cycle in our lives. And they observe and think in cycles that are repeating and spiraling every day. Or the perspective of the people from Ghana that has this beautiful concept in culture called Sankofa. And Sankofa means, is the symbol of a bird that is looking to its back, holding a stone. Sankofa is a verb in the Twi language of Ghana that says, go back and get it. Because sometimes we are looking for the solution in front of us, and maybe it's something that we did already and didn't pay attention when was present. or it was stolen, or it was erased from history. So the Sankofa is one way to be proud of our culture and look, what did we lost in the path until here? What did we need to pay attention that is not ahead of us, but is behind us, that we need to recover, restore, renovate, and bring it back in a way that are gonna make things available to everyone. Bringing a perspective from my city, Belém, we say that we live in the temporality of the rain. There, and you can see how big the rain is in the Amazon rainforest. This is my city, by the way. Because of the strength of the rain, we usually use this temporality of scheduling things together before or after the rain. And we say, yeah, let's meet to talk together, but then we are gonna meet before the rain. Yeah, but what time it will rain, we never know. Like every day, the duration of the rain is gonna be different, but we know that it's gonna be so strong that either we're gonna meet before or after. And we wait, we observe the cycles. Today, inside of the offices and the industries, we are so away from nature that we believe that we are independent of them. But we are not, and this is creating a lot of diseases because we believe that we are not part of nature. This is one Samaúma, that is one tree of the Amazon rainforest that you should meet. The Samaúma is representing here also the indigenous perspectives that, yes, the people learn Portuguese, science, mathematics, history, geography, like in the Western schools during morning. But then during afternoon, the indigenous communities in my region, they learn about the connection with their ancestors, the connection with the land, how can we relate better to nature. And this doesn't create this dual mindset that we need to shift. This creates something else, like a third path. This culture allows us as people to be able to find ways to be a third thing. And this third thing is what we need when we consider that the cycles of the planet, they have also a ceiling. This is a perspective of the economist Katie Raworth. She created the donut economy as a model that says, yes, we don't want to stop innovation and live with less than is necessary, but we need to understand that we have boundaries, planetary boundaries, and we need to live inside of this space that is safe for all of us. Today we are not, because we are acidifying the oceans, we are having the planet warmer than it should, we are basically bringing to extinction a lot of different species, and it is important to consider this ceiling, because like Roman Kizinarik, the author of The Good Ancestor, says, we are borrowing the planet from the next generation. The planet is not ours. We are here, but we need to understand that all the generations that are still yet to come, they will live here where we are today. And how can we take care of this planet considering these different cycles? This is something that the different African perspectives that we share in Brazil as well, in diaspora, looks for. How can we understand that we are in connection with these ancestors that came before of us and the ones that are still to come? So considering that, I believe that organizations can also be change makers and shape time in different ways, not only thinking about technology, but thinking of different tools that are gonna be, like Hui said, cosmotechniques. So different technologies that will consider culture, society, the people around, the nature around. And when we look to all of that, we can go from all of this acceleration, control, and plan to a world that we have more rhythm, more relationships, and more regeneration. If you look around, this is happening already. Even in the context that you know, because the concept of emergency, we have these small things happening around us, building systemic shift. But when we look only to what is established already, we ignore this context. So a new temporality is basically a necessity today, a different way to understand time, to understand future, and to relate to it. So here, I don't want to bring any tip on this direction. I can talk more after this if you want to talk, but more as an invitation to remember what was lost in this past, what can we connect again, and how can we look time and future not only as something that we understand as a resource, but as a context of nature that we belong, that we are part of it, because we are one of these multi-species that are in the planet. So when we look to time through this different perspective, we also can create a different relationship with the world, coming from one that is very much about speed and this linearity that tries to create innovation through how the system works today, to build this world that we can become, a world that is more in sync with nature, more in connection with the cycles around us, and more in relation to everyone around. So this is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to have more time to share and exchange more about this. Thank you.